Welcome everyone to our series of discussions with Mercy leaders. Today we are going to be talking to two professors from our School of Education. Dr. Amanda Gunning is our Associate Professor and Chair of Secondary Education, and she's the co-director of our STEM Center for Education. And Dr. Elena Nitecki is an Associate Professor and Chair of Early Childhood Education. Today we're going to be talking about fun, hopefully with STEM techniques at home. There's a lot of people who are sheltering in place. A lot of parents have expressed some frustration about trying to balance work and play and schoolwork, and what do they get the kids to do and how can they engage them. And so hopefully Amanda and Elena are going to give us some techniques for doing that so we can help our parents be a little less punchy about getting through the day. So Amanda, I'm going to start with you. I wonder if you would just talk a little bit about the Center for STEM Education at Mercy.
Sure. Thank you so much. And thank you for having me on this video call. I know I'm a parent. I'm also a former teacher. I know how difficult a time this is for everybody. It's great that our teachers are doing so much and giving the kids all this work, so that way they're not just playing video games all day, but it can be overwhelming. So I think this is a great topic, so thank you for organizing. So I am the co-director of the Center for STEM Education with Dr. Megan Marrero, who is also a professor in the School of Ed. And our mission for the program is outreach for teachers, students, and families. So we do lots of professional development for teachers. We also run programs for children like the Saturday STEM Academy. And we also run, we train schools to run it in their own schools, but we help facilitate it, is the Flores program, which is the family learning and outreach for education in STEM. So these are our main initiatives that the center runs. And we also have lots of teaching fellows, STEM teaching fellows, and science teaching fellows that are grant supported. So we're always looking for funding to help support STEM in the community through the schools and directly with families.
All right, so you're the future teachers, but you're also working with parents and kids and to generate excitement in this area.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, well, so let's just get into it.
Oh, and I just want to mention also, Elena works closely with us. She's one of our affiliated faculty at the center, and she also helps teach some of the STEM courses in our STEM certificate program for teachers.
So let's talk about fun with STEM, and maybe how can parents get their kids involved at the younger ages in having fun with STEM?
I think that thank you for having me, and I'm glad to be here. With STEM, a lot of times, and look, this situation isn't ideal for anyone, but there are a few silver linings. In school, the children have a lot of prescribed curriculum. There is a lot of them being told what they have to learn on a certain day and how. And here's an opportunity to really use some of the STEM ideas in that it can be a child-directed learning. You can go based on the child's interest, opposite of how it is in school. For example, you can take your kids out for a walk because we all got to get out of the house for a couple minutes a day, right? And you see something interesting, you see a worm or you see something sprouting, and it's an opportunity for exploration and for research. And by going on some of the children's natural instincts of what they want to learn, they are naturally curious. And a lot of times that curiosity is squashed in school. So this is an opportunity for them to really learn in a natural way, which is very conducive to STEM education.
So Elena, give us some examples. And not just outside, but also let's go with inside, just for parents who are trying to juggle working, but also getting their kids involved in doing STEM activities at home.
I'm one of those parents, so I can speak to some of the younger kids stuff, and then maybe Amanda can talk about some of the older kids. But I think one thing parents and teachers definitely have to keep in mind when you're trying to do this stuff at home is the rule for attention span. So in case you don't know, the child's attention span is double their age, roughly, depending on your child. So if you've got a 5-year-old at home, don't plan on more than 10 or 12 minutes, maybe, if you have a really attentive child. So that means if you give them something to do and the teacher gives them something on their Chromebook or something and they're working on that, after 10 minutes or so, it's going to start to the child may start to lose interest. So you may have to get up and have an exercise break, a dance break. Let's go take the dog for a walk. Let's make lunch. Let's do something that's a break, and then do another activity. And as a former preschool teacher, I know my day was broken up into 10 to 15 minute increments. It's literally like planning every single time and balancing those structured activities with then a less structured activity. So that would be the first rule of thumb to remember, because with younger children, you really have to think about creative ways to budget the time that you have where they're actually focused.
That is no tall order though, right? I mean, that's a lot of back and forth between activities, and so you have to have a lot of activities.
Or you balance it with things that are things that they can do independently. And I think for younger children, early childhood education has always viewed school time as mainly focusing on cognitive development. But there are many other domains of development that are neglected in school that now we can work on at home. For example, kids can work on their social and emotional skills. Siblings have a great opportunity to fix some sibling rivalry going on and work on some of the relationships, you know. They may have questions or emotions or fear about this whole situation that you can talk to them about, or they can talk to an older sibling about. You have an opportunity to build self-help skills. You know, put the kids to work. Let them make their own lunch and clean up, with supervision, of course, you know. Let them make a mess. This is how they learn things. Older children can help with budgeting and shopping. You know, we're only going shopping once every 2 weeks. So let's make a budget. What do we need? What will last? That'll keep kids busy for an hour. They also, I think one of the most important things about this period, and you talked about going back and forth, is that this unstructured time at home gives children an opportunity to work on their executive function and planning skills. And in their everyday school life, every minute of their day is dictated. Now it's time for lunch. Now it's time for math. Now it's time for after school sports.
Yeah.
We have overscheduled our kids, and now we're unscheduled. So let's let kids figure it out. Okay, you have to finish X, Y, and Z today. What am I doing first? When? How? And even some children as old as first or second grade can assist in creating their own schedule. Okay, if I do 20 minutes of math work and it's done, then I'll take a break and take the dog out. You know, those kind of things are very important for executive function, and it's something that is very lost in the structured school. So I think that in terms of balancing it, if you hand over more of the responsibility, even to kindergartners and first graders, you say, do your math lesson, and when you're finished, you can go get a snack and then come and get me. I just bought myself 40 minutes, you know? So it's just an example, but I think Amanda may have more to add in terms of the STEM specifically. I'm just trying to kind of set up the structure for all that.
Right. Okay. So Amanda, go ahead.
So I can speak, of course, the older kids, but also having my son is a little bit younger, and he's been special needs. So just talking about like the scaffolds for the younger kids, like providing them like even like a menu of options, like you could color, you could go on your iPad, you can do like giving them the choice of what to pick. That's one thing as teachers that we try to give kids choice so they can be as self-directed as possible. One of the major things, especially for the secondary, I mean, for all of them, they're losing out on the socialization of school. So we're thinking about like, what are the other skills that they can develop during this time? And so one of the major things that we personally, myself, just because of, you know, going to work and running to sports and all those things, like my daughter who's in middle school hasn't really had the opportunity to learn how to cook. She could make herself breakfast, you know, put together a sandwich. But now that we are home and I am here, but not overseeing her, you know, I'm like in the next room or upstairs, she is able to start doing a lot more recipes on her own and baking. And this is actually STEM related skills because you're following a procedure. It's important. With some experiments, you want open exploration, but with some of them, you need to follow a procedure. So you're following the steps. You have to do the measurements. There may be conversions involved. If she wants to half the recipe, how am I, you know, then we're bringing the math with the fractions. Okay, it calls for a half a cup. So now we're making half the recipe. It's going to be a quarter cup, you know, teaspoons, all of those things. So I think allowing students, your children, some freedom to experiment in the kitchen a little bit and maybe try some recipes. It's a good way for middle school and younger teenagers to develop some independence and life skills in terms of, you know, following recipes and cooking and being responsible for cleaning up and things like that. Another thing you can do with the older kids, you can actually let them go for a walk outside on their own if you feel comfortable with that. My kids, well, I send them on like a bike ride and I ask them what they have seen out in our neighborhood. We're lucky because it's kind of suburban here, so there is, like, we have, they call it like a frog spot where they go and look at the tadpoles and things like that. But even where you live, even if you're in an apartment, you can have them look out the window and say, like, what birds do we see? What are we hearing? There's apps you can download to identify different birds by the song that they have or their coloring. You can also see what animals should be out this time of year. You see, even in urban areas, you can see more animals in general just because there's fewer people outside. And of course, there's all kinds of like engineering kind of related activities you can do and have kids build things. If you have, you know, we all have a lot of toilet paper these days. If you save the toilet paper tubes and the paper towel tubes, and you have some either washi tape or painter's tape, the kids can make like a marble run on the wall and see if you can, like, the challenge is, if you drop the marble from this height, like, and you have loops and whatever, will it get to the end? You know, you could roll a coin in there if you don't have a marble or a golf ball or a tennis ball or something. Excuse me, a ping pong ball, I meant. So, you know, there's some like at-home activities. Of course, if you have blocks, that's again for like the kind of the younger kids, but a great building activity. And then there's loads of apps online for coding. A lot of kids already do coding in school, but if your child isn't familiar with it, there are free apps. You can go to hourofcode.org and there's lots of guided exploration where they tell you exactly what to do and give the kids some freedom to make different choices, so that way they can do some online exploring in terms of.
And do they have age appropriate coding lessons online?
Yeah, so you pick the age level and then also the interest. Like they have Minecraft, they have Frozen, so that way you're using these like little avatars to follow through the coding, and it's teaching them the logic behind coding, the sequencing, you know, doing loops and things like as you get further along. There's also some apps, like I know Scratch is free and it's really great for younger kids for coding. It's a, you know, there's coding that, you know, our IT people are, you know, kind of doing using commands and typing, but this kind of coding is iconic programming where they're just like drag and drop. So they either have like a little menu of all the commands and they're just dropping it into like a little theater, you know, or they have actual pictures and they're dropping it in. So it's really accessible. And some of this the kids can do on their own. Like you just have to get them like logged in, started, and then they could just go through it and advance to the next level and things like that.
So this, I'm having a little anxiety attack as I listen to you all talking about the kinds of things that you can do with your kids, because a lot of it does sound like you have to be there for it. In other words, you have to be there to help with the math, with the cooking, or you have to be there. I mean, I guess my question is, how much experimenting can they do on their own?
The thing is, what I think people do not like remember because of where our society has gone, which is great. But if you think about like just 60 years ago, 70 years ago, kids were like working in factories. Okay. So it's like if they're in your kitchen unsupervised, if the smoke alarm's not going off, you're probably fine. You know what I mean? Like I think people have a lot of anxiety about hovering over their children, but I mean, Elena, you could speak to this too. I know for the, you know, adolescent portion, which is my expertise in terms of development, is they need independence. They need the space. Like let them sit in their room and do something, because they're becoming independent adults. And like, even like my 12-year-old, it's the beginning, you know, and they don't have school anymore. That was their time away from you. That was their time to be, you know, their own people, develop their own personality and whatnot. And when they are stuck with you, you're the parent. Teenagers are trying to separate. They're trying to develop their own identity. They need their independence, even in close quarters. So I highly recommend you let them have their alone time in their room, if they have their own room, or like in the kitchen and you're in the other room, like give them the space, because you know what's really going to happen. You know, I told my kids, I was like, we are not going to the ER during this time, so you better be careful. But you know, so within reason. But I think you really should let go a little bit because the kids don't have a lot of independence right now.
Right.
So if you can let them be unsupervised, it's better.
Oh, you know, Elena, the thing that you hear about a lot with the younger kids is the math. The parents who are like, I can't help my, you know, kindergartner, my first grader, whatever, with math. But we're kind of needed to be there with them through this, right? Elena, you are muted, so I need you to unmute yourself.
I think
Can
you have to
that?
unmute her.
Huh?
I think
Okay.
you guys have to
Somehow
unmute her.
I got muted.
There
I'm
you
sorry
go.
about that.
Okay. Well, that's all right. So
it wasn't letting me unmute. But as far as what Amanda said, I think the same applies for younger children. They need independence too. And there has been a rich precedent of research in the last 30 to 40 years showing that we've been increasing control over children, overscheduling them, being overly cautious. And I'm not saying that we shouldn't look out for their safety. Of course we should. But there is a trend of more and more parents kind of helicoptering over their children.
Yep.
And yeah, so in a situation like this, it's a perfect opportunity to give them age-appropriate independence. And that's necessary not only for their cognitive development, but I think also for their social and emotional skills. You think about all of this anxiety has created this, it's a total loss of control for us as adults and also for children. They can't control this. So you need to give them some little part of their world that they can control. Give them a little bit of opportunity, a little room, a place they can be where they can have some control. And I think that in terms of your question about math, that's a valid issue because we learned math. I say we as parents, anybody who was in school, you know, prior to the year 2000, even around then, we had, you know, the new way they're teaching math with Common Core. It is different than some of the way, and now Next Gen in New York State, it is different than the way that we learned, but the basic concepts are the same. So a lot of parents struggle because A, they don't use math on a regular basis, so you forget it. It's like a foreign language, right? And so there's a lot of tools that can help you kind of refresh your basic knowledge about math, and then also teach it in the same language that kids are learning it in school. For example, one of the resources I give my teachers, I taught the math methods course for many semesters, and it covers pre-K through 6th grade math. And Khan Academy, K-A-H-N, Khan Academy has great resources, 2-minute video clips, how to teach fractions with Common Core, how to teach, you know, volume with Common Core. And it gives you kind of the language of how to do that. Also, a lot of kids have access, the textbooks, they have access through school, have a lot of electronic resources for supplements. So, I mean, yeah, you may have to sit with your child for 10 or 15 minutes, remember the attention span again, and then allow them to try it on their own. And it's okay for kids to make mistakes. And it's okay for them to get frustrated because that's how you learn. You learn through experience and frustration and making mistakes. And a lot of parents feel uncomfortable with that and want to jump in as soon as they see the mistake starting to be made. Mm-hmm. Let them follow through and get the wrong answer and learn it. And that's, I think this increased independence and self-help is one of the silver linings that may come out of this whole thing, because everyone in your family needs separate time. And everyone in your family needs some, to feel a little bit of control over their own universe, even if that just means, what am I going to do for the next hour?
So a couple of things. After this conversation, I want to get from both of you those websites, just so that we could make that information available to parents, all the different, the apps and the websites and
Sure.
so forth. But let me ask you about, so for parents who kind of want to get them away from screens, but still get them involved in STEM activities, what can they be thinking about? Either one of you.
So, like I was saying, using, you know, it depends what your kid is like. So do you have an artistic kid? Is your child like a builder? Are they somebody who likes to draw or observe or take pictures? So there's, you know, you have the limitations of your environment. So if you're in an apartment, in an urban area, it's going to be a little more difficult. However, you have plants at home. If you don't have plants, you know what? Why don't you start a little windowsill garden? Like I do like a ginormous vegetable garden. And instead of buying the plants this year, I said, you know what, I'm going to get seeds, and I started them all in my kitchen. So the kids come by every day and they look at them and they spray it with water and they like see what's going on. But you could make it a little more, organized if you keep like a plant journal and say, okay, day one, we planted the seed, we watered it, what happened? Have them draw every day what they see. This is actually a very common experiment that they do in grades, K all the way through middle school, growing different seeds. And even if you can't pick up seeds at the grocery store, you can even try planting seeds from the food that you eat. So most people are eating fruit at this time. I hope you have access to fruit and vegetables. So any of the seeds that come out of the fruit you eat, you can say, all right, let's try it. Let's see if it's going to grow. Be conscious that sometimes GMO foods, the seeds won't be viable, but you can test it out. And if it doesn't grow, you can say, okay, why do you think that happened? Do you think these are GMO foods? Like, this is a conversation then you could start talking about with kids. And why do genetically modified fruits and vegetables not have seeds that are viable? So that's something you could do inside. If you have pets, you can have your child, you may be very familiar with your dog or cat or fish or whatever you have, but you can actually ask your child to keep a log of observations of your pet. Say, like, what do they do all day? How are they getting their needs met? So this is just something with like animal behavior and the basic scientific skill of observation. So those are like just some really simple things you could do in your home in terms of like life science. And when you're moving into physical science in terms of experimenting with, like, if everybody has recyclables, you can make, like I was saying before, like a marble run, or there's plans that you could find online for like a trebuchet, or even I don't know if you want these things, but so like a catapult or a slingshot. You can have them like make different things at home.
I was totally going to ask you, like Q-tips, marbles, forks.
Absolutely.
I don't know.
All
Can you do
things.
stuff with all of that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, even like a milk bottle, anything that's handy, that's the creative part. You can give the kids a challenge. Okay, you both have, an egg carton, a half an egg carton, and a milk carton, and a water bottle. Who's going to make the best instrument? Something like that. And then if you can go outside, you can Google hiking scavenger hunt, and you get like a list, and you got to check off, oh, did we see squirrels? Did we see bugs and like eating a log or whatever, like you check off all the different things, a waterfall, a stream, so there's different things that if your family's not accustomed to hiking and you want some support for that, there's tons of stuff online about, scavenger hunts on hikes or where to go hiking. You can have the kids do some research to pick a hiking trail that they want to go on. And that also promotes the physical activity. Elena and I didn't talk about this, but physical activity is really important for kids. It's important for everybody. But, the kids are not getting out. They're not walking through the halls. They're not having recess. It's like really tough if you're stuck in your apartment. You can't get outside with them. Balled up socks. Sounds like I would do this with my daughter who pitches for softball. Just throw that sock against the wall, a pair of socks, and it just builds that arm muscle. So they can play catch, they can play dodgeball in the house with something like that. If you want to construct like a little basketball hoop out of recyclable and, tape it to the wall and let them play basketball with that, there's got to be some outlet for all of this energy, and they have to stay active because, what do you have in the house? Like Oreos and Doritos, and people are starting to look a little round, so I'm just saying.
So, Elena, I want to ask you kind of a psychological question. I listen to this and I think it's not even intuitive to me to know what would be fun in this area, because I was not either mathematically or scientifically inclined when I was growing up, and no one ever particularly encouraged it. And so if you don't have the courage of your convictions behind some of this, do you risk sort of polluting the whole experience with your kids? And how can you get over yourself?
Yeah, I think that's a great question, Edie. I think that a lot of adults, tend to really be critical of themselves. And I think that the solution to that is to let the child take the lead. So this is the opposite of how they learn in school, but child-led learning is a very popular type of learning for certain early childhood, mainly under 5, examples like Montessori and different places where they will let the child lead the curriculum. And this way you can guarantee that they will be interested because they came up with the question. For example, I'll give you a couple examples. My children are both home at 2, and I asked them when this all started, I said, look, we're going to be at home. What is it that you guys have been wanting to do for months and months and months, and you haven't been able to find out about or to do or something? Both of them said they wanted to reorganize their rooms and have a new bedroom. And I said, okay, so we got to come up with a plan. So they each had to sit down, measure the room, see how.
Do you have girls, by the way? I'm just curious.
A boy and a girl. No, I have a boy too. But they were motivated because they had the interest. Wouldn't have been my first choice because then it led to a whole lot of other work for me. But you know, it did allow them to plan. They had to use some spatial skills. They had to use, you know, I didn't have to know about this as a parent. You can let them figure it out in terms of where the stuff would go, how big things could be. They had to sort clothing. You know, they had to put things in the right drawers. They had to decide what was staying, what was going. And I think that they were invested in that for a week. I mean, I got a lot of work done that week because they were totally invested and they wanted their new room. Similarly, with younger children, you know, if they're really interested in something and you let them take the lead, even though you don't know the names of the things they're learning, you may not know they're learning engineering skills or problem solving or mathematical, you know, formulation, but they're learning something. And the fact that you let them take the lead lets them become more motivated and invested in the whole project. You know, my daughter also, like Amanda said, I want to learn how to bake. I want to learn how to cook. I am not like the best cook in the world. I mean, if it's not burnt, it's probably good. But we've been learning together, and it allows her to kind of take the lead, read the recipe, cut it in half because there's fewer than what the recipe calls for. All of those things are opportunities that it's letting them take the lead, and I don't have to do a whole lot except give them the space, give them the permission, some basic safety things, and you don't really have to know that they're learning this or that STEM skill or science skill. It's inherent in the process when it involves problem solving and when it involves something the child's interested in.
And what if they just say, I'm bored. I'm bored. I don't know. I'm bored.
Yeah.
Yeah, I read a article. It was like in some parenting magazine where bored like stood for something. Like did you like read a book? That was the first thing, and then like it was an acronym for, it's on my fridge, I can't remember it right now, but it's like the idea is you should have like a kind of a go-to answer for that, because you shouldn't have to solve their problem. If they're bored, it's a lack of creativity. And honestly, we have done this to our children. As Elena mentioned before, they are scheduled to the hilt. And so they don't have the time to sit there and just like think of something to do, because it normally does not happen. I mean, in our lives, it's like you get home, you're going to eat, you're going to go here, you're going to do that. You know, it's crazy. So you really need to, you know, answer them, be like, well, did you read? Reading is important at every single age. So the reading, listening to a book on Audible, and then being active in some way, and then say, like, you rattle off a couple of their favorite hobbies. Well, did you want to play a board game with your sibling, if there's a sibling, you know, which is great for turn taking and all things like that. And then, but then other things like, oh, did you draw? Okay, well, then you figure it out. You know, like give them a couple ideas, but put it on them. They should be using their own, like thinking about what they want to do, their own creativity to figure something out, because
and is that true for any age? In other words, would that be true, you know, for a younger kid and an older kid? Can you just sort of throw it back that way?
I think that in just echoing what Amanda says and what I said earlier, I mean, this whole lack of executive function and planning and using time wisely has been lost at every age. And there are adults we see in our college classes that they get to college and they can't manage their time. You know, you give them an assignment and, you know, there are people that will be doing it the night before it's due. And this idea of managing time and executive function is a really important life skill. So we need to, yes, have a go-to list of something they can do. And I would also encourage, you know, chores. People need to help around the house. You mentioned, you think of 100 years ago, kids were working, but then they were also coming home and helping with the chores around the house. So letting children have an opportunity to have a list. Well, this is what I'm supposed to do every day. Did I do it all yet? And if I didn't, then I don't get to have free time until I do all that stuff. And that really requires one day to kind of sit down and plan that out with your child. Let them have a say in it a little bit, where they say, okay, this sibling likes to do this better, take care of the pets. This one doesn't mind taking the trash out, and divvy it up. but they have a list to go to. And if they go through their list and then they are still bored, then they need to figure something else out in terms of their interest, that reading, using their time. And then also, I think this idea is also allowing them to come up with the solution. I mean, planning your time is a problem solving within itself.
Right.
And I think if the parents can just say, look, I have to work, you figure it out. And I think that's totally acceptable, because the kids really need to have some more self-reliance in general.
Boy, that's advanced, right? You figure it out. I mean, that's not something that parents do really, right?
But that you help your child the most when you help them learn how to solve problems and be independent. That's how we get adults who can be adults, right?
And a lot of parents might be scared of this. They're hearing this and they have a 2-year-old or a 3-year-old, and they're like, oh my goodness, if I said go do what you want, my house would be a wreck, right? And so you have to set limits with this. And I mean, I did this with my own children. I've got nieces and nephews that age that are 2 and 3 and 4 years old. And my sister called me and said she was working full-time from home. You know, what am I going to do with a 2-year-old and a 4-year-old? They're going crazy. She and her husband had to set up kind of a schedule where one has solitude and work time and one is able to kind of supervise the kids, but giving them, again, within their attention span, small manageable tasks. Okay, when you finish this, you have to be very concrete with children under 5 because of the way they think. You know, when you finish this task, picking up your Legos or building this building or, you know, whatever you give them to do, then you come and see me and we'll think about the next thing. And children, even at that age, at 2 or 3 years old, can manage the idea of, I have to do X, Y, and Z today, and I have to finish that. And if I don't finish it, then it's time to do it. So, I mean, it is going to be a bit of a weaning process to get kids used to more independence.
And it might have some rocky starts too.
Yeah, it's a rocky start. And I mean, even with my own children, what helped us through that transition is allowing them to have a little bit of say in what the schedule is and what the chores are. So for example, you know, my son in middle school, he doesn't want to wake up at 8 a.m. and start his day. Fine. You want to start your day a little bit later? That's fine, as long as you still get everything done within that day. Mm-hmm. So I think that that kind of flexibility, but balanced with some structure within the day, and that the children know what to expect. It really only takes about a week to get into that pattern with kids. Even young children can get used to a pattern. And when I taught preschool, I did it in a Montessori model, which is very letting children be independent. The first 2 weeks in September was always rough, but then you'd walk in the classroom and there's just children working and doing their own thing. And no one ever said they were bored, because there was always something else to do.
Right.
So it is possible, even if you are a parent who's not confident about your abilities, the best thing you can do is just say, you could try that on your own. You know, you're interested in it, give them an opportunity to try it on their own, and you'll be amazed. Kids can really step up to the plate.
Okay, 2 things about that. I want to encourage everyone, again, if you have questions while we're hearing this conversation, please write them in the chat bar and we'll relay them. And there is a question, which is why I have my reading glasses on. And this is from Leah Noonan, who asks, even more than before, I hear many kids are on their tablets, phones during their free time, watching YouTube. Some of the videos are kind of mindless. As a kid who grew up on Mr. Wizard, which totally makes me old, she says, then it makes me older, by the way. Do you have any favorite videos or video vloggers that really have a science wow factor for kids?
Wow, that is a great question.
It's a good question.
Say that just the thing that popped in my head first was just from, like, for the old kids, but especially like the preteens, teens, like they really need the social connections. So if you can get them FaceTiming or house party, you know, like those hangout apps with their friends, I think that's really important, especially giving them the freedom to reach out to their friends and do that. I know some parents are being very strict about the apps they let their kids have and reaching out to friends, but like keeping up with their peers is very important for them as teenagers. I think everybody like acknowledges that, but that, just keep that in mind. Like that is not wasted time on a tablet when they're, you know, talking to their friends. But I don't have like a go-to, like I personally don't really watch a lot of TV, and we do a lot of the Disney nature shows. I don't know if you guys watch those. They're beautiful documentaries. It almost like feels like you're going on vacation when you watch this. Like last night as a family, we watched the newer one that came out, like Dolphin Reef, and it takes place in the setting of the Polynesian Islands, and it's just gorgeous. And it tells a story. It's kind of like a little bit for younger kids, I guess, because it like makes the animal behavior into like a story, but it was still entertaining even as an adult. And I learned things I did not know about dolphins and some of the other undersea creatures. So I thought that was great, but I don't follow anything particularly on YouTube or anything.
Like Bill Nye, the science guy, does he do things that
kind of old?
I don't know, it's the only one I can think of.
There's some archives of him. And then Steven Spangler has a lot. He actually came to Mercy to speak a few years ago. And also, I think if you're looking for quality time online, I know a lot of parents of younger children in particular are very concerned about the amount of screen time, because the neurological research in the last 20 years has really shown us overwhelmingly that kids who are very, very young, under 5, that spend a lot of time on the screen, that it's really not good for them neurologically. And now we're like, oh wow, my kid's on the screen all day, this isn't good. But you can use that time. You do still have to limit it. I mean, kids under very, very young children should not be on screens all day long. But the time that you use can be used in a very positive way. For example, there's a lot of places offering free virtual field trips, and they're doing this mainly for teachers. Cool. Yeah, and it's amazing because usually they charge for this kind of stuff, but they're doing, because of the situation, they're doing it for free. But a lot of my students who are teachers are telling me about where they're going on a virtual field trip with their class, and it's great. It's a 360 view of the place wherever they're going. Museums are doing it, outdoor trips, those kind of things, national landmarks and everything. And then you can talk to your class about it. Well, as a parent, if you need to get a work call done and you need 45 minutes, have a virtual field trip. Where have you ever wanted to go? And have even a young child can look at some of these virtual field trips. A lot of them are sorted by age, and I can give you the link when we do it. But a lot of them are free now, so they can really learn something about their community, what's in their state, what's in our country and around the world. That typically, why would we even think about doing that? And it's a great use of time online instead of looking at mindless videos or YouTube crafts, or, not that that doesn't have its place either. A lot of kids relax with using their online time. But I think if you can mix in maybe 1 or 2 quality learning experiences online with some of the free time they're doing online, that might be a way to improve the situation.
Yeah, so who's still online, by the way, is Mr. Wizard, apparently. Leah was just telling me Mr. Wizard is still online. So long live Mr. Wizard. So here's another question.
Oh, wait, can I just add?
Huh?
I'm sorry. Let me just add something to what Elena said. I'm sorry. Yeah. I thought of something that I was just watching myself the other day. New York Botanical Garden is putting up, they have like a live feed of some of their gardens, but they save the video, so you can go back and look at the cherry blossoms, the daffodils, like they're gorgeous. So even just going, and even for some relaxing meditation time and seeing those vistas of nature, they say that helps with stress levels in general, even if you're looking at it on a screen. And also, when we put together the list of links to send out to the participants, there is a link where you can have astronauts reading stories from the International Space Station about like their little space story book. So I think for younger kids, that might be kind of cool. So
that's great. Okay, I want to take a detour because speaking of like cool science things, I want you guys, so tonight there will be a cool scientific happening, right? You want to share about that?
So I checked the weather right before, because we're having a wicked storm right now. It's just thundering and stuff over here.
Gray.
But tonight is going to be clear. It's very exciting. Tonight's actually a meteor shower. And so it's going to be like the peak is between 2 and 3 a.m. But if you go out later in the evening, you should be able to see some shooting stars closer to the horizon. So, this is a great opportunity. My own kids, like, I would never keep them up late because they have school the next day. But tonight, they could sleep late tomorrow, and we can all do something together as a family. And even if you are in an apartment, you might be able to look out your window if you have a clear view of the sky and see, I think it's the Lyrids asteroid event. So
you need a telescope, or can you just see it?
No, it's just they're shooting star. It's like what we would call shooting stars. So you should be able to see just a little bit of like a little star and a trail. But you have to, the one thing that people, I think, get frustrated with astronomy observations is they go out and they look and they're like, oh, I don't see anything. But the thing is you have to let your eyes adjust for at least 15, 20 minutes. So if you're viewing it from indoors, looking out, you're going to have to shut the lights in the house, and like with the room you're in, so you're in the dark and looking out. If you're outside, try to shut the outdoor lights, looking up, and let your eyes really adjust. And you'll see after that 15-minute mark, all of a sudden it seems like all these stars came out because your eyes have adjusted. Especially today, the eye needs to have practice seeing far and seeing close. And these days we're all on our screens, we're reading up close, and you're not getting that distance vision. So you need to have your eyes have a minute to adjust, being looking so far and looking for these tiny points of light, and then you should be able to see some of the shooting stars. How
long will it go on? Like how long? It's between, did you say between 2 and 3?
Well, 2 and 3 a.m. is supposed to be like the best time for viewing, but it's going to start, at 7, like it's already, happening, but you're not going to see anything because it's not dark enough out. And also where we are geographically, you have to wait for, the earth to turn so that way it's high enough in the sky. Because if it's happening, but it's at the horizon line, the trees and houses will be in the way. So that's why I was suggesting if you wait till like 9 or 10 o'clock and you could start seeing something. But again, it'll probably be low in the sky at that time. And when as the evening gets later, it'll be higher.
So there's even some interesting science you could try to incorporate into that about the Earth's movement, right? And how it is that we can see it at 2 in the morning versus 9 at night.
As the Earth is rotating, we're getting a different view of the sky as the night goes on.
Okay, we have another question. What guidance do you have for parents on communicating with teachers and getting feedback for any STEM activities they're doing at home?
I feel like the teachers are so overwhelmed. Like this is, think about it. Teachers went into this profession because they like people, they like children, they like being face-to-face, they like walking around their classroom. You're taking some people who don't do anything online. Some teachers really don't utilize online tools. Some of the older, more experienced teachers. You're taking these people and they have had to learn in such a short amount of time so many online tools. Mm-hmm. They are doing so much. I really thank our teachers so much. And please, that's the number one thing I say first. If you're emailing a teacher, first line should be, thank you for all that you're doing, because it is really hard for them. It's really hard for them. So I think that if your kids are doing some of this stuff, it's, if they want to share it with their teachers, great. But if the kid doesn't, I've asked my kids, oh, why don't you send that to your teacher? They're like, no. I'm like, I'm not going to force it. The teacher probably has 500 emails anyway. And like, they'll say, okay, great job. But I mean, you could say that. So I don't know if there's a ton of value in sending it to teachers specifically, but I don't know. What do you think, Elena?
I agree with Amanda. Our poor teachers right now, and especially preschool, kindergarten, and first grade teachers. Oh my goodness, you get on a Zoom call with a teacher and it's just a bunch of 6-year-olds showing you their bedroom and showing them your pets. And there's like very little value in this right now. But you have to consider this period of time. These few months are a learning curve for parents, for teachers, and for children. I mean, this is a new way for kids to learn. Think about kindergartners. This is their first year in school, and this is happening to them if they didn't go to preschool. So you really have to give them some cushion here. I think that after this whole experience, as people are a little bit more attuned to this and a little more used to this, we may, if God forbid, we have to do this in the fall, or there's a period where we do have to face this in the fall, I think it'll be a little smoother for everyone. But learning online is different than being in person. And especially, you see it as adults, I'm sure, but as younger children, particularly under the age of 8, that are still developing so much socially and cognitively, they're missing that whole human element. And a lot of their learning at that age is dependent upon socialization and emotion and touching. And I mean, picking, helping children, taking them by the hand. And that is not happening right now. So I think we need to be very patient and appreciate our teachers. The way I view it is you do your schoolwork and what you have to do, and then everything else we do at home is us. So if we're doing some of these STEM activities, that's great. Let's involve the siblings. Let's involve the whole family. And this is a great opportunity for family bonding. And it's for us. I mean, who cares? It's extra learning, but let's do it together as a mother and a child, as a family. If you have other extended families staying with you, to all of us do this together. And I think that by framing these family activities as just fun, this natural learning will occur where they don't always associate, oh, learning at school. No, learning can be fun and learning can be as a whole family. And I think that's another really important message that children, especially younger children, can learn through all of this, that just because we're not in school, we're still learning, and perhaps learning in areas that are neglected.
And you know, Elena, what you said like brings up another thing that we hadn't specifically spoken about, but one of the major skills of science and engineering and STEM in general is communication. So if you are doing something fun like this, I mean, everybody has their phones and tablets, whatever, have the kids take pictures. Tell them to put together a little video and they could send it to grandma and grandpa and say like, oh, why don't you show Auntie so-and-so what we did? I mean, having them talk about what they did when you were on the call, be like, okay, I'm going to leave you with your magnet tiles and your blocks and your Legos. I'll check back with you in a half an hour. Say, okay, tell me what you did. You know, the communication piece is one of the soft skills, they say, of engineering. You know, 21st century skills, communicating is so important. And I think that we can start modeling that and helping kids be more comfortable with that, because I mean, we all have, you know, went to college, and nowadays it's like, you know, they have to do presentations. And the sooner you can get your kids talking about what they did, answering questions about it, you know, posing questions to them, say, oh, so why did you do that? What made you decide to do that instead of this? Like, and like pushing them with questions that make them think are an important part of STEM skills, and having them talk about what they did is important. So any kind of communication or record keeping that they can do with your at-home activities is great. Like even just making drawings, like if you go outside, what did you see? You know, draw it, or make a list of all the birds that you saw, the animals you saw on the walk, or, you know, what the dog did today, a nap, he licked his paws, he ate his lunch, you know, whatever it is. But just like reporting back to you is part of the STEM skills.
And I would also add that collaboration, you know, is another one. If you have anyone who's, say, fourth grade, even third or fourth grade or up, and they say they're bored and they have a younger sibling at home, they can teach. You know, put them to work and have them, you know, I have my daughter the other day was helping my nephew with his work over Zoom. They were talking to each other, and she's talking to him about addition. And the way I heard her communicating, it's like, you know, the best teachers, those who learn the content, can teach it. So it's like she's able to communicate that to a younger sibling, cousin, whoever. That's a great opportunity not only to develop collaboration and communication skills, but also an opportunity for the younger child to learn from a peer instead of an adult. You know, it's a different type of language that they have when they teach to each other. This is something that's being lost in the classroom. A lot of times teachers put kids together in groups because they learn differently in groups, because they're learning from their peers. So you can mimic that at home if you have siblings, or if you don't, if there are no siblings, to set them up on via video chat or on the phone or something with a younger friend, having, you know, a person in their class or a sibling or someone in the family to have them teach or help them with their homework.
You know, I'm thinking about a classroom full of 6-year-olds, for instance. Do just developmentally, do younger kids even sort of understand about communicating through virtual space? Do you know what I mean? I mean, I realize that they're on their screens in a one-way relationship, but in you know, in terms of like teaching your younger sibling how to, or your friend.
It's kind of like how kids view movies and viewing things online. You know, there's a difference between reality and virtual reality, I guess it is. And really, kids don't develop that kind of abstract thinking until they hit about 8 or 9 years old. So if you're talking about really young children, you know, it is hard for them to distinguish sometimes between fantasy and reality. But a lot of them are very adept with technology already because of the things they've been exposed to. I mean, this generation is growing up with technology and phones and everything else. So, I mean, letting them explain through virtual means is something I think they're comfortable with. And eventually, by the time they hit the cognitive stage where they're able to make sense of all this, it will come. You know, obviously doing this type of learning and teaching with younger children is more challenging, but teachers are finding really creative ways to do this. One of my students was teaching kindergarten this way. She had a class of 30, and she's like, I can't, 30 faces on the screen, little 5 and 6 year olds. She ended up splitting it up and having 10 kids per day, and they'd only meet, like, group A would meet Monday, and this is what we do, and then she'd repeat it with another smaller group, and it ended up being a lot more valuable. And so, I mean, teachers are learning, like I said, it's a learning curve. I think anything a parent does at home to supplement is going to be icing on the cake, because there are many children, unfortunately, that are still not even hooked into this type of learning, that are just doing nothing right now, nothing, you know?
Right.
So I think that you need to take it easy on yourself. The kids need to take it easy and try to just incorporate those learning opportunities into a fun time, and also have an outlet in terms of communication to talk about their emotions with all this, because we're feeling stressed, we're feeling anxious, so are kids, and they express it in a very different way. They may be acting out, they may be withdrawn, they go to extremes a lot of times. So I think having a communication of families talk about all of this is a healthy thing to do.
It's probably worth noting, and we only have a couple more minutes, but it's probably worth noting in terms of this digital divide. There are things you can do if you don't have screens at home, or if your screens are for your working and you need, for instance, like I was just thinking about, as you were talking, playing cards can be a great way to teach kids. I think I taught my kids math doing blackjack, you know? I mean, there are there are other ways, right? If you
absolutely. In fact, a lot of preschools, up until about 10 years ago even, a lot of preschools kind of banned technology because of some of the neurological research that's coming out about kids and screens. And when it's been a while since I taught preschool, but we did no technology all day long. And it was a very easy thing to do because kids are curious. You just see what they're curious about, you know, and work on that, using materials around the house, using nature and things outside, your pets, animals, anything that they have an interest in. You can build something on that simply by asking the question, you know, if they're interested in something, why do you think that happens? Or why do you think? Or what should we do with that? These open-ended questions, you will be surprised at the answers you get.
One last question, because when we talked the other day, just in terms of balance, and you alluded to this before, but for parents who are struggling with their own work and what there's kids' schoolwork, and then there's kids' playtime, and then finding playtime that actually engages them on some of these more elevated levels of science and technology. It's a struggle, right? To balance all of that.
It's stressful. I think that everybody, like Elena said, like everybody's stressed right now. You got to cut yourself a break. Like, you know, it can feel like, oh my God, I didn't do this with them today, or they didn't finish that, or, you know, and I think that it's almost like more important to have peace in your life than to be stressed out over something not getting done and starting like an argument about it, because as Elena was saying, like the kids are, you know, stressed, your spouse or your other family members in the house are stressed. Like there's different, it ebbs and flows, like who heard from a friend that so-and-so was down in the hospital, or, you know, what did the kids hear a snippet of on the news? There's all little things that factor into everyone's well-being. And so it fluctuates on a day-to-day basis. And while, you know, we have the best intentions, you know, like, oh, we're gonna all sit up and watch this asteroid thing tonight. You know, maybe that's not what people need tonight because they're tired, or, you know, maybe it's better to have a board game. You know, don't put a lot of pressure on yourself. I think if you have these things in the back of your mind, when the opportunity presents itself, you can do it, but don't feel stressed about doing it, because like the most important thing right now is for everyone to stay healthy and, you know, get through this in a psychologically healthy way as well. So you don't want to start, you know, adding things that are going to make people upset, especially when you're all in close quarters. So, you know, it's great to have these ideas and think about it and say, where can I fit it in? But I would suggest not to like pressure yourself about it or feel like, oh my God, I'm not doing enough, because that's not like the point of this. The point of this is to try to, you know, diversify the activities you're presenting to your kids.
I agree with Amanda. And I think that personally, when I sat down to do this with my children, one thing when I talked about the children kind of having a say in the schedule, one thing we did when we set up our schedule is that we did kind of like the things that need to be done first in the morning, schoolwork, if I had work stuff to do, whatever. And then we built in in the late afternoon a cushion. So if we had a ton of schoolwork that day, we have to use the afternoon cushion time and just do the extra schoolwork. If I have a work call that's going to go long, like I have to use the cushion, whatever. But if we don't have that, then we can go into this box of ideas that we have and do this activity, or we could go for an extra long walk and do this. And, you know, it's like a go-to where you can just grab something if you have the time. And I think that if you sit down and you're thinking about your day, because there's so much unstructured time, and you kind of split it up into blocks and get the things that need to be done first, but then allow yourself that free time. And there's been days over the last few weeks where we just say, you know what, it's cushion time, but we're exhausted. We don't want to do anything else. We just want to relax. And we might just watch a movie, or we might just, you know, talk about nothing, or just read a magazine. And that's fine too. And I think it's a great opportunity for families to connect and help each other deal with the stress of all this, and teach children that, yes, we have to get what we have to get done, but we can also be flexible and empathetic with one another.
All right, well, thank you. Thank you, thank you. And I imagine this whole experience is proving hugely interesting for both of you as you teach teachers how to work with kids, right? We only have a minute or so, but are you using it in your classrooms that you're teaching?
Well,
A lot of emotional support.
Yeah, that's true. There's a lot of emotional support for our teachers. I'm teaching an engineering for the classroom class right now, and there are like a lot of things going on that I find myself bringing into that course just because it's relevant and it's, you know, going on right now. So definitely a lot of fodder for discussion.
All right, well, look, we've got to close. Thank you so much, Dr. Elena Nitecki, Dr. Amanda Gunning from our STEM Center for Education, and both teach in our Mercy College School of Education. Really, really appreciate it.
Thanks for
Thank
having
you. Thanks for
All right.
having us.
Goodbye, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Stay safe, everybody.